The Charlotte Motor Speedway playing host to the longest night in the 2024 season of the Full Throttle RealSimRacing Cup Series here live on RaceSpotTV. It's not quite the Coke 600, it's 300 miles in store for us tonight over the course of 200 laps at this great racetrack as we take on round 10 of our 2024 season. It's myself, Ewan O'Leary, Joe Peak alongside me for this round of the championship. It's an iconic venue, Joe, that we're taking part in our racing tonight. 300 miles, the longest race in terms of distance that we're going to see all season long, and we're very much looking forward to racing into the darkness on NASCAR's longest night.
Yeah, if it wasn't just for the number of laps to get them familiar, also perhaps the home of NASCAR, you could say, with many teams being based here. So all the drivers should be plenty familiar, as it looks like they're gritting up now.
Yeah, we're rushing into the start of our 200-lap race here tonight, so do bear with us with that one. We're looking forward, though, to a great race here overall. We'll show you a little bit later on what's going on as far as the championship standings are concerned and so on. But what we can tell you is that Agnew Phillip is certainly on a roll at the moment. 2 in a row over the course of the last 2 rounds of the championship at Darlington and Dover, rounds 8 and 9, looking to make it 3 in a row for already the second time this season, going back to a record that was held by himself, of course, a few rounds ago when he was able to take 3 in a row. That is the kind of history we've got on the line here tonight as we go forward to the roughly 1/3 mark of our 2024 season. Still an awfully long way to go until we're crowning our Cup Series champion in the end of the 2024 season, right the way towards the start of November. Qualifying, as you may be aware, is just coming to a close at the moment, and when we get it, we will show you the grid. There indeed they are, lined up on the front stretch, ready to go rolling for the pace laps and get the green flag for tonight's events. 200 laps, 300 miles around the Charlotte Motor Speedway for round 10 of the Cup Series. We will, of course, be returning to this venue later on in the season, but it will be such a different setting when we get to there. It'll be the Roval for a start. It would also be the playoffs, and so a real crucial moment for everybody who wants to win the Cup Series here this season, coming a lot later in this season, in about 6 months' time indeed. Looking forward to this one, Joe, though. It's a very different race, as I say, to what we're going to see later on in the season. What do you think are going to be the keys here tonight in terms of surviving 300 miles around here and eventually, hopefully, winning this race?
Keeping hold of your tires, definitely going to be key here. This is actually a pretty fast track, and the more you lose them, the more that you're going to be struggling, especially out of turn 4. It is a very tricky exit onto the front stretch. Don't be surprised if that's where we see most of our accidents.
Absolutely. The pace car rolls off onto the banking for the first time, turns 1 and 2, and the cars follow them, double filing up, ready for the start of the race. Pretty gingerly, of course. Everybody's got to make their way forward and close up just in time for the green flag here. I wonder how differently this one's going to be raced with the iRacing special event, the Coke 600, coming up here over the course of this next week. I just wonder how differently this one's going to be raced, because 300 miles is still a very long way, although it seems to pale into insignificance given the fact that it's half of what many of these drivers will be taking on over the weekend.
Yeah, and I mean, that's honestly the thing, is this acts as a good test bed, trying to prepare for that, finding out how your setup does over a long run. And you definitely want a good long run setup, because I don't anticipate that this one will be too plagued with yellows. We should get them, but you're gonna have, over that long of a race, at least some big stretches of green.
Let's hope so as we go forward with tonight's racing. Cars pull through 3 and 4, ready to go for 200 laps and 300 miles at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. It's the Full Throttle RealSimRacing Cup Series for round 10 here at Charlotte. The field ready themselves for the green, which will wave now. 300 miles underway here at Charlotte. into 3 and 4 for the first time. It's a clean start for the field. Drivers up high, drivers cutting down low and keeping as low as they possibly can. Lap 1 complete here at Charlotte, and thankfully all of the drivers getting through cleanly without incident or accident.
Cam Patterson had a pretty good jump there on the start. Couldn't completely hold on to it over Davis, but he's still hanging on. Although he's got Agno Phillip really challenging him for that P3, trying to hang out on the low side as you see them mostly single file out here through 3 and 4. Like I said, very difficult through that corner. You can definitely run multiple lanes, but from what I've found, bottom side is probably going to be the better place to be.
It's certainly looking like that at the moment. We've got one car up high, the 44, looking to work around the outside and having a bit of success actually through 1 and 2. What sort of advantage is that, or disadvantage indeed, is that going to have proving to be as we look down the inside here? Oh, big squeeze into 3 and 4, 3 wide for the race lead.
Wow, this early on already banging doors as Lararia is going to make some contact with Patterson, but that's going to demote Davis pretty quickly here. Clean air, not the biggest thing in the world, but it'll be nice to have it, like I said, to try and preserve those tires up in the front, having them scrubbing across the track a little bit less, and some of them already experiencing some understeer. They're off of 2, it looks like.
Still door to door as we go into 3 and 4. It's the 44 on the low side, which has seen more success throughout the opening laps of this race, and it's an early lead now for the driver of the number 44, and so another lap chalked up. What is noticeable to me, though, Joe, is just how close everybody is. That's sort of the common theme with this new package, is that I'll say new package, it's been around for a couple of years now, but on 1.5 miles, the field just seems to be a lot tighter together. It seems to be more difficult to get away.
Yeah, exactly. And that pack racing is always going to bring with it more treacherous aspects to it, as everybody has to mind their P's and Q's. They're going to have to work together quite a bit. In NASCAR, we always talk about give and take. You need to ask yourself, is it worth it to fight this hard right now? Or if someone really wants that position, do I just kind of let them have it as our leader continues to pull away from that number 10? Saw a little bobble farther back, I think, with the number 6 of Thomas George as he just dipped below the blue and white line.
Thankfully, we've seen a clean start, though. Green flag running early on here, and I wonder now whether we really are settled in and everyone's going to go back to what you were talking about earlier on, conserving tyres a little bit. Well, maybe that's the case up front, but we haven't seen the midfield for a while, and there's not much conserving going on at the moment back here. It's side by side, door to door, all the way through the mid-pack here. I guess that's what happens when you've got so much slipstream up ahead of you. The pack's so closed in with this package. It does make for very exciting racing, very close racing, but a lot of people running up on the high side anyway. Wonder what this is doing to their tyres and what this does to their long-term strategy, fighting quite so hard quite so early on.
Yeah, you saw a big bobble there from Maddox in that orange number 30. Thankfully, was able to hold on to it, still hugging the bottom side. Looks like George is not going to dip across that line. That demarks the apron. You really don't want to touch that because you can get quite loose through there. And yeah, it is interesting how hard everybody is fighting at these early stages, or maybe they're just haven't found a chance to try and get into their own rhythm and get that single file racing going.
8 laps complete then at Charlotte in the 300-mile race of round 10 in the Full Throttle Real Sim Racing Cup Series. Here live on RaceSpotTV. Glad to have you along with us in what should be a very exciting race indeed. Maverick Davis seems to have grabbed the wall there off of 2, and he's going backwards pretty quickly.
Yeah, kind of surprised that our pole sitter is already down to 7th, unless he is actually trying to save things a little bit. But yeah, your momentum's going to be interrupted. As you mentioned, how fast it is around here. Minimum speed of about 160 miles an hour in the corners. These things fly around this place, despite this being among the older tracks.
It's the side-by-side remaining very much in the midfield. Down on the low side here, it's the 48 of Braden Whittaker. And up on the high side, Maverick Davis, who did just find the wall, and we saw indeed racing on RaceSpotTV last night, by the way, at North Wilkesboro Speedway in the PRL Cup Series. He'll be hoping that this race goes a little bit better than that one did for him here this evening. He slots into 6th place, just in behind RaceSpot's very own Dylan Coyle inside the top 5. Brandon Gass in 4th place ahead of the series leader Agnew Phillip. Is Captain Patterson in 2nd place, just behind Michael Larrea, who is leading the race. But the battling is really back here, just outside the top 5. It's relentless, seemingly. Once again, I do just fear for the state of these guys' tyres, especially when they're running up towards the high side. Do you think that running up high like that will sort of hold them back a little bit later on? Does it chew through their tyres a little bit more quickly?
Well, if the car is set up for it, it should be fine. But if it's not, especially if you're suffering from understeer, you're going to find you're in big trouble, because up on that high side, the car just really doesn't want to turn once you get out of the groove. But I'm starting to notice that Maddox up there, he's kind of steadily moving forward. So I think the 30 probably has a car that's feeling pretty good running up on the top side, and he's making excellent use of it.
At 1.8 seconds, the gap at the front of the field, by the way, at the moment. But this is the group from 3rd on backwards, and it's very exciting to watch indeed. Agnew Phillip is leading the way through it. The driver with the most race wins so far this season, also the driver with the most points. By 89, he's got the gap over the rest, but as you may well know, it doesn't especially matter at this stage in the race, just underscores the dominance of Agnew Phillips so far in 2024. Right up high for Mike Maddox as he tries to work his way round into 4th position at the expense of Brandon Gass. He's gotten alongside, he's not quite edged through just yet as they remain door-to-door into 3 and 4.
Thought there was a big run there for the bright blue number 19 of Bradley Burke, but he kind of got held up. You have to really pick and choose your spots, because you can get those massive runs, but this is a somewhat narrow track, so you really have to make sure that you've got the space to try and take it somewhere.
Into lap 15 of the 200 here tonight, and still clean and green despite the action that we're seeing here at Charlotte Motor Speedway in the side-to-side racing. This time for 5th place, Brandon Gass trying to stop himself from going backwards even further, to be honest. Braden Whitaker on the outside this time. He makes his way through into the top 5. Maverick Davis next in the queue, with Cody Harris and Dylan Coyle battling side by side. It's not been a good couple of moments for Dylan, I've got to say. He's been, well, he was in 5th position not so long ago. Now, unfortunately, back to 9th place, battling for 8th though, up on the outside.
Yeah, Davis down on the bottom side from him, had that big run off of the banking, which he's going to carry on here, just kind of riding behind the 48 of Braden Whitaker, and that seems to be working a little bit better. I thought the low line would be much better, but if you've got a car that rides comfortably, it seems like just carrying the momentum off of the top side actually is working better in the early stages.
Still in this midfield where the action is. By the way, almost the entire field is involved in this. There's no one strung off the back. Right the way back to Tom Morano, who's running in 22nd and is the final driver who took the start for tonight's race, round 10 of the Cup Series here tonight. Still a side-by-side moment between a lot of these drivers in the midfield. Down in towards 1 and 2 again. Maverick Davis hung up on the inside here, with Cody Harris looking right around the outside. Place which has seen quite some success so far in the race, and Harris looks to be chalked up as one of those seeing some success up there too. Wonder if everyone's going to start to move slightly higher maybe, or whether they'll continue to paint the line down on the inside there as this race continues and the track evolves, of course, over the longest race in the season.
I do anticipate you're going to see it move up a little bit, especially if we stay green, because they don't want to crank more wheel in around the corners. It's going to just chew them up more and more and more, so you're going to open up your hands to try and take care of those tires. Also, we keep talking about those tires, and all these drivers a little bit further back, are they going to find it paying dividends if we stay green? Because Larrea and Patterson have just bolted up at the front. Have they gone a little bit too hard too soon?
Yeah, I do fear in that sense, but they know what they're doing. I'm not going to question them. There is Michael Larrea leading the race in the 44 car after an early early bit of movement from him right up on the outside. You saw him take the lead away from Cam Patterson and now holds just 0.8 of a second. The gap was nearly 2 actually, but Patterson's running him down at the moment. But other than those two, it's a big 20-car group all fighting in the background, as you can see. So good job from these two to get away. I do wonder what we're going to see here as we complete 20 laps here of this race. Already a tenth of the way through, would you believe it? What are we going to see here in terms of green flag running and pit stops if indeed we get to that stage? I was envisaging a race today in which they wouldn't maybe have to make a green flag stop because cautions would fall in the right places, but there is always that thing in the back of your mind. What if the cautions don't fall right for me? What am I going to do if this is, or if we're forced to come down pit lane under green?
Well, I mean, my theory on that is always if you're farther in the back, take a gamble, take some risks, try the undercut, see if you can get up to some of those cars ahead of you. If you're up at the front, I would say take the safe bet, play it a little bit conservative, and wait to see when the majority of cars pit. Don't go super late, but if you start to see some of the rivals around you pit in, it's okay to respond maybe a lap late. You're on a similar strategy as long as you get out with them.
Do you not think it's worth the risk for some of those who haven't scored a race win so far this season? Because that goes for most of these drivers. Agnew Phillip obviously has won races this season. In fact, 2/3 of them so far in 2024. We've got Muntassi Major has also won a race, and so has Bradley Burke. But for the others in the field, they're all looking for a race win. Now, is it worth maybe taking a bit of a risk in this race? Maybe not green flag pit stops, maybe cautions a little bit later on. Maybe we're too early in the season for that kind of thing, given we're only halfway through the regular season at the end of tonight. But I just feel like for those who are searching for a race win, that something odd on strategy might be worth trying.
Yeah, definitely, but as you kind of alluded to, probably later on in the race. Something on these first pit stops, no, like I said, unless you're at the back of the pack, you probably want to play it safe. Now, when it comes down to the end of the race, if we've had a lot of green flag running, yes, then up at the front, you might want to take a risk, see if you can undercut your rivals and see if you can get to the checkered flag before they catch you back up on those fresher tires later in the stint. But you do have to try and see if you're even in the position to try that, because if you're 10th on down, if you're a whole half a lap behind the leaders, you're probably not going to be able to affect that unless you do something extremely dramatic.
Battle for the lead. Michael Laraya has been caught now by Cam Patterson, and we've very much got a fight on here between the 44 and the 10. Through 25 laps at the Charlotte Motor Speedway, Cam Patterson is looking for a lead. The two of them are quite far ahead of the rest, and look at that, Laraya suddenly moving up to the top, seeing the success that Patterson has had up there, changing his line to defend from the driver behind him.
The theory behind that is always go where your rivals want to be. Force them to have to take the line that doesn't work as well for them. So if you see them riding up there, give it a shot. Maybe it'll even work better for you. But most of all, you're going to force them to try and have to drive what isn't ideal.
So the two in their own world, if you like, fighting for the win at the moment, with Agnew Phillip leading the charge behind, although even he's starting to get himself away actually from the huge group of battlers from the top 5 positions, or the bottom end of the top 5 on backwards. Laraya falls back to the low side again as Patterson just moves up 1 lane further, not quite against the wall by any means, but he's certainly a lane or so higher than Laraya just for the moment. Will Laraya change the line again? No, Patterson moves up high again, but it just seemed to me that element of surprise is sort of gone for Patterson. He's got to really work his way round the hard way now if he wants to lead some laps in this race.
Yeah, exactly. The 44 definitely knows he's there. He's watching him, seeing what he's doing. I'm kind of curious if he's going to fight him hard for that lead or if he'll allow him to go by, because Michael's led a good chunk of laps here, and he'll get that bonus point for leading at least one. Patterson, I'm trying to remember if Patterson's already claimed at least a single lap, so he gets that bonus point. But, these points can wind up mattering later on in the season. If Michael can continue to dominate this one, he could get that extra bonus for most laps led.
I think he was in that 3-wide moment, wasn't he, Patterson? So he might have just nosed ahead for a lap, but I'm not sure. He'll want to make sure if he can just lead a lap at some point throughout tonight's race, although They're both being chased now by Agnew Phillip. 1.2 seconds the gap at the moment. It just seems that maybe he was taking care of his tyres throughout the first 20 laps or so, and now he's really starting to motor and starting to chase these two down. He's got a little way to go though until this becomes a 3-car fight for the win.
Yeah, I think Phillip needs a bit before he catches him, but I don't think it's impossible. Like you said, it seems like he's been running away from the field and he's been starting to catch up. So I'm starting to think more and more that Michael indeed did use up a bit too much as we check out the onboard with Phillip, who looks very cool, calm, and collected.
Certainly does. Always like to see the onboards from these drivers, to see what their setup's looking like, what the background looking like. You can always tell a lot from a driver from the background, I've always noticed. He's got a trophy in the background, and something else that I can't quite decipher what that is, Joe, to be honest with you, what's going on in the background. But anyway, he's a very successful driver, very clearly, because he's showing off his silverware, and why not?
Apparently a wrestling champion as well, from what I can tell. I'm not sure what it says RSR championship belt. So I guess did they hand out actually a championship belt for this series?
It appears so. Joshua Lee's letting us know. It appears so. 2-time defending series champion, of course, and he's got off to the best possible start in 2024. One other thing that I've noticed, that it always sort of has to jog your memory, especially if you've been watching NASCAR for a long time. The fact that on a mile and a half, look at how often he's reaching for the shifter, and look at how often he's having to change gear. It's still something. I don't know whether it's just me who's still struggling to get my head around this, but it is so different these days. These next-gen cars having to focus on shifting and your line and all of the other peculiarities that go with over racing all at the same time. Agnew Phillip seemingly has mastered that. He goes down to the inside of Cam Patterson now and is looking for second.
I say, make him shift. Make him work for it. Make the job hard, because I want to see the best of the best out there. And Phillip down to the inside. Let's see if he can finish it up here. As it does look like Lariah is kind of hopping up to a higher line once again ahead of him. But I think that 94 is kind of in that sweet spot now. While the others have maybe used up their stuff a bit, him hanging back has allowed him to just have a little bit better speed mid-stint.
He seems to have figured out, Lariah, that if he moves up to the high side, then that's the only way they're really going to work a way around him. If he stays low, then he's going to get driven around the outside. So he's worked out if he goes up there, then there's no space to go around the outside, I suppose. And then that has put off so far Cam Patterson from going through. I wonder if it will work on Agnew Phillip as well, who is now caught up. It's officially a 3-car battle for the lead, but I just wonder whether Patterson's over it. Oh, as we got a caution. I think Whitaker and Gass have been involved in the background as we go through 34 laps, our first yellow flag of the night.
Yep, I think this was a case of almost 3 wide, didn't really work coming out of 2. You mentioned Gass involved in that with Whitaker, so we'll see if we have a replay of that one up. But from what I can tell, it wasn't anything too dramatic, just maybe a bit of miscommunication. It's always awkward, as we see here, when you don't get the spotter call in time, and there's just that tiny bit of overlap, and he touched, and that turned him into the wall.
Good job from everyone else to avoid, by the way. That could have been a real pile-up on the back straight there. And thankfully, everybody's dived down to the inside. There's not that much space around here to actually avoid these things either. So here's another look at it. Just an overlap there, isn't there? And this is the sort of difference, I suppose, maybe using the iRacing spotter or a real-life spotter. I'm not entirely sure which Brandon Whitaker is using, but you get the feeling that a real-life spotter would have helped there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It makes that difference, and that they can kind of tell you they're coming up. They might not be with you, so don't shut the door. And unfortunately, when you do, that is what happens. We'll see whether that really hindered them on damage, or if they're going to be able to get away with that. As unsurprisingly, I kind of figured we'd see every single car in here.
We have literally got all 22 into the pit lane, including those that are a little bit damaged. All 4 tyres look to be the order of the day for most as well. Let's see who wins the race off pit lane for the first time. It is not going to be Lariah, I don't think. I think he's just gotten beaten out by Agnew Phillip, who has the quickest stop. 0.2 seconds less in the box. And Agnew Phillip makes his way out ahead of Michael Lariah. Then it's Cam Patterson, Bradley Burke, who's won 2 races this season, and Thomas George, who rounds out the top 5. So a few changes there. The notable one being Phillip has gotten to the lead for the first time.
And it looks like they're giving the end-of-line penalty for the caution to Brandon Gass because of that. He claimed that yellow. Now, the drivers have the option to do that if they think they're at fault for it, and that lessens penalty points that they could potentially get each race. If you rack up enough of those penalty points, then you can actually get a race ban for that. So it's a good idea that even if you think you only might be at fault, to try and give claim to it so that you don't wind up getting too many at the end of the month.
Absolutely, it's something to keep an eye on as we go past the start-finish line for the first time since pitting. We don't have any cars a lap down. The lights will go off on top of the pace car immediately. I wonder how different this restart is going to be from the one that we saw in the first instance, the actual start to the race. Agnel Phillip, first of all, is leading, which is the first difference. But the more notable one for me, Joe, is the fact that we saw a lot of action early on. 3 wide as well. I struggle to believe that we're going to see that again, to be honest.
I'm kind of actually anticipating we'll see it again. If they're willing to do that at the very start, then I bet they're willing to try and do that here, because really this is the time where you have the most opportunity to try to gain a lot of positions easily. It's also the time, unfortunately, where you're most in peril of getting into trouble. So you do have to be careful about it. But I mean, as a lot of my racing friends always say, you ask a race car driver not to race, and good luck with that. So everybody is going to be on the wheel here and trying to get some spots.
Yeah, it's very difficult to hold these guys back from doing that kind of thing. So let's see how they're going to get on with it this time round. We're through 3 and 4 again as the first caution of the night comes to a close. Still well over 160 laps in the 300 miles at Charlotte Motor Speedway here this evening in the Full Throttle RealSimRacing Cup Series. Continues. It's round 10 and it's time for the first restart of the night. Agnel Phillip, the series leader, in control of the field. Green flag back in the air at Charlotte.
Top line just did not go that time, and I think Burt got the worst of that as he had to check up big time.
3 wide in the mid-pack as well. You said it was going to happen again. It looks like it is doing. A big slide off of 2 as well. We're all going to get away with it.
Whew. So we got through the first 2 turns. Now what about the next 2 here to complete the first lap? Some cars really drifting up high, though, on these cold tires. You got to remember, everybody's going to handle a little bit differently on the beginning of the stint.
I'm somewhat surprised we got away with that. It was a huge slide off of turn 2. Couldn't quite grab who it was, actually, but it was quite a moment. And thankfully, we stay green. Side by side for 6th place in the background. Maverick Davis again involved. It's Thomas George this time, who he's battling side to side with for that 6th position. Down on the low side, Davis, but having a bit of joy up on the high side is Thomas George, as there is already a bit of a break in the field as a result of this. The top 5 with that small advantage over this battle for 6th place.
And that number 6 car has kind of been in the thick of it, even though we're only 41 laps into this thing. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a replay of him somewhere later on, just because he gets into trouble, because he's certainly not shy of dangers. That was, I think, Phillip going down low. Not sure if he got loose off of 2 there and had to catch it.
I think Laraya got round the outside through 1 and 2. Phillip was already on the low side, so said, well, he might as well go through in that case and lead a few more laps. And so the 44 goes back to the front, led the most laps so far today, and is going to lead some more. That was very close as Cam Patterson pushed Agnel Phillip into 1 and 2. The field stacks up behind them. Bradley Burke is right involved this time as well. It's not just a 3-car battle for the lead.
Glad to see that Brad was able to recover. Like I said, he had to get off the gas, actually got into the back of somebody because of the checkup on the top side on that restart. So he's recovered quick. He's back to 4th, where I think he was actually close to being lined up on that restart. And my goodness, some of them checking up way more than others down into turn 1. Kind of, it almost looked like it surprised the entire line of cars there.
Yeah, that was... It's the 2nd lap in a row that had happened in my mind. I thought I'd seen that into 1 and 2 the first time round as well. So I don't quite know what's happening, to be honest, between the 4 of them, but they can't quite seem to agree on the speed at which they should be going in towards 1 and 2. Let's see what they can get away with this time round. Do they all agree? It looks like the answer to that is yes. So finally a bit nicer for them all as they work their way through 1 and 2. But a definitive top 5 very much, with Bradley Burke and Cody Harris joining the previous 3 who were fighting for the win earlier on, and they've reached a bit of an agreement 5 laps into this second run of the race. A bit of an agreement, not quite to fight with each other in the way that they were earlier on, although Agnew Phillip just looking to the inside now and again into these turns.
And I tell you what, 45 laps into this race, and Burke up 12 positions. This has been pretty impressive as we check out the number 12 here, currently running in 11th. Ross is kind of sandwiched between the likes of Soa and Marazzi Major right now.
Yeah, Ross Cato currently in 11th, but just up ahead we've got big battles going on as well. It's all part of this big group, and we're going to be saying that and seeing that a lot here tonight, I would have thought. Seems the pattern of the day is a group escaping out front, the midfield fighting as if their lives depend on it, and that is very much the pattern that we've seen. Already nearly a quarter of the way through the 200 laps that we will be completing here at Charlotte Motor Speedway here tonight. The sun is setting, the temperatures will only be going down, although I don't know if you saw that graphic earlier on, the temperatures already relatively on the low side here tonight. Hopefully that will help these tyres survive the day in what's going to be a very long day. 300 miles around here tonight.
5 total sets of those tires as well, so they are limited, and with this being a somewhat long race, they're going to try and hold on to their stuff. Good move around the outside, and a second one from Burke once again, very much on the move and getting himself up into second here. If he can just finish the job on Phillip.
In the grass, Cody Harris down the inside through the quad oval, and we do indeed have a move for the lead. Bradley Burke looking to the high side. He's going to tuck back in though once he's got into second position. It's Cody Harris's turn to try and make the moves on the outside line. It's a bit early for going in the grass though, surely, goodness me.
You can get away with that here and there. Don't take too much of it, because you can actually get a black flag for cutting the course. Not something you often hear about on oval racing, and it's a pretty severe penalty here. So keep it on the main racetrack, as once again, Burke's going to try and size him up. 44 going to hold low, and it's too late to try and defend as we watch the replay on this interesting move down through the grass.
I got a black flag in my very own first oval race, by the way. It's not impossible. That's a story for another day, probably. Bradley Burke leads the race, though, as you say, got to the outside. There wasn't a lot that Lariah could actually do. It does seem to me, though, that Lariah is the most keen out of these 5 to actually lead here. When Agnew Phillip lost the lead, it kind of looked like he was like, well, it's fine. I don't really mind. When Lariah loses the lead, it seems that it really gets him going, and he really wants to earn it back as quickly as possible.
Yeah, I get the feeling that Bradley was not happy with that qualifying. That, or maybe he just didn't set the car up for qualifying and knew he had the race pace. But either way, this is impressive, the short work that he's made of the rest of the field and is now up to the front. Clearly kind of the mind of what we saw from Michael in that 44 earlier on, of use up your stuff, get to the front, and try to build up a gap if you can. We'll see if he can run away, and if he continues to try and just use this impressive speed.
I do wonder whether these guys at the front, though, get a bit concerned about using their tyres a bit too early, though, because we saw in that first stint of the race, that first run, if you like, the guys behind were coming quite quickly, and they were closing in at a rate, in my mind anyway. Once again, in this second run, they're going out hard, and they're bringing out an advantage, especially Bradley Burke here, who's trying to rip this group apart, seemingly. I just feel that maybe that's not the best idea right now, with so long to go, first of all. But if this green flag run goes for a long time, then surely he's going to be overtaken by a lot of people before he can come into pit lane, and seemingly he's not very worried about that for the moment.
Yeah, no, I mean, this clearly this is his MO, so he's committed to it. You really don't want to try and do it halfway. You either got to go one way or the other and not sit on the fence, and he's electing to try and play the rabbit in this situation. I was kind of trying to keep an eye on what the lap times are like for that second pack to see if it's going to change around, and honestly, it hasn't yet. Nieto is the first one of the second pack in 6, and he's still been running slightly slower laps than Patterson.
Yeah, there is going to come that point, though, I would argue, based on what we saw in the previous run of the race. Whether they're all going to work out like that, though, is probably another issue. Agnell Phillip just losing a few tenths of a second here, as Cody Harris and Cam Patterson start queuing up for third place, and especially Patterson, who's looking pretty racy through 3 and 4. No way through 4 now. Once again, that second group, side by side, absolutely everywhere. I mean, it is entertaining, there's no doubt about that, but I just wonder whether it is the best idea for them to be running quite side by side and be running with each other quite so hard. I know the car makes it easy to run side by side like this and makes it easy to race. So exciting to watch, but is it really the best idea as they try and catch these leading 5? And we check in at the moment with the very front of the field, and Cody Harris, who's looking forwards and backwards at the moment in this front group.
We're also apparently an OSU fan, if you couldn't tell. So Cody Harris just outside of the podium positions on this one. So is he going to be able to maybe push a little bit, see if he can also move forward, much like we saw from Burke just moments ago? Or did that maybe time in the grass scare him a little bit? Now he's settling in to just let this race go by. To be fair to some of these drivers as well, Ewan, we are already a quarter of the way in. This is going much quicker than I thought it would.
Yeah, absolutely. Wonder where he's from, by the way. It's very obvious, isn't it? Cody Harris there in the background, but that's what we like to see. You need to make things obvious for us, to be honest. Otherwise, we're going to struggle. Side by side in the background. This is for the lower end of the top 10. Down the inside for Jason Landry on Thomas George, as the fight for 8th place rages on. Samnietta leading this second group. Grant Davis very much in line. He's got the plan, but seems that some of the others haven't quite. Side by side for 8th. George getting some joy around the outside, and the 6th car will be moved up to 8th place. A little bit more single file here actually in this group than we've seen for quite some time now actually.
Yeah, and that might actually be helping them. It was 0.2 of a second quicker for Sam last lap compared to Patterson, who's sitting up in 5th in that front group. Let's see what the lap times look like this time by 30.364 for Cam. Sam, 30.267. Another 10th chopped off.
Just worth noting, as the race continues on, already approaching 1/3 distance, would you believe. We're rattling through the laps here at Charlotte Motor Speedway in the longest night of the season. Very few races even come close. Of course, we started the season at Daytona, just over 100 laps that day, which equated to 262.5 miles, if you want to be totally specific. We got up to 250 for Talladega as well, and we will do again at Darlington later on in the season, and the second visit to Talladega when we get into the playoffs later on this season, but none up to 300 miles like this one. It's the iconic Charlotte Motor Speedway spring race though, and as we have seen since 1960, for over 60 years, the longest race in the NASCAR schedule, here in the RealSimRacing Cup Series as well, here for another season as we complete the first half of the regular season. And somehow, out of 9 races, only seen 3 different race winners. Are we going to get a 4th here tonight? Oh, in the fence, in the background, meanwhile. Not sure who that was. It wasn't Dylan, was it? I don't want to say before I know, but somebody definitely scraped the wall in the background, and I'm just hoping that it wasn't the 79, but I think it might have been.
Yeah, Coyle watching I think just behind that right now. Maverick Davis is starting to make some moves and starting to go a little bit farther forward. So here is Dylan Coyle in that number 79 down in 16th. He's got Major just in front of him, as well as Coop in behind him. He's going to run, looks like about the middle line here, but that one does not work well for him. Coop easily overtakes him.
Love how he sponsored himself, by the way. He's got his own name written on the side of the car, which is quite good. But there you go. He drops down to 17th place. We look into the eyes of Dylan Coyle. The glasses on and everything. I think he's slightly distracted by the fact that he's on stream, to be honest with you, because we've just watched him lose 3 places, and he was doing fine before we started watching him. But there we go.
I have to
go on.
I have to confess, I think this is the first time I've actually seen Dylan's face, because all the times we've worked with him, I don't know that I've ever actually seen a picture.
He's listening to.
I can barely hear you guys speaking, but I know you're talking about my face. And I'm sorry that you had to see it for the first time.
It's very lovely, sir.
Thanks.
I can't help but feel this is distracting, to be honest, but there we go. 17th place for Dylan running around in the 79 car. Let's go back up front. Michael Laraya under pressure that he's not seen since he lost the lead a few laps ago to Bradley Burke. This time it's Agno Phillip down to the inside through 1 and 2.
Phillip's another one that seems to kind of have a specific go time where he'll get a little bit more aggressive, start making moves. That one fails on the low side. See if he can switch it up and do the high side. Nope, he's going to stick down to the bottom as the 44 is going to ride the rim, really ride the rim all the way up around the outside. And again, the 94 seems to not like pinching the bottom.
He doesn't mind it up there, does he, Michael Laraya? He just seemed to have some real joy, but doesn't seem to want to run right next to the wall all the time. I suppose there is the added risk that comes with that, but even so, he's a lot quicker when he's up there, but just seems to use that line very sparingly. And I think as a result, we can sort of decipher that he is finally happy here to run in second position for the moment, because I reckon if he was running right up next to the wall, he'd be able to take the lead off Bradley Burke.
And I'm kind of with you on that. I am interested in as to why he's not sticking with it. Maybe he did find that it does chew up the tires a bit more running that high side, so it acts as a good defense, but not a good regular line. If you're taking that traditional line of starting wide, ducking down to the bottom, and letting it drift out, theoretically, that should, as you see here, chew up the tires the least, because you're giving the widest arc you can.
Yeah, it must be something down to that, because he's using it so sparingly. Normally, you obviously use the fastest line you possibly can at all times, but if the side effects are chewing through your tyres at a rate that's completely unsustainable, then you better stay to the bottom for a little bit longer. Cam Patterson seemingly is falling backwards a little bit again here in the run, and this has happened for the second time in a row. So trying to decide between myself really whether that's his setup that's not quite tuned in for the long run as much as it should be, or whether he's just going through the tyres, going back to that discussion point, just maybe a little bit too quickly as well.
Yeah, it's hard to tell. I'd need to watch a little bit longer to really kind of get a bead on what's going on with him, because he's actually seemed to have leveled out in comparison to Nieto. In fact, yeah, last lap was almost even with that number 2 machine behind him. So he doesn't seem all that concerned, I think, even if he leaves a little space to those in front.
Yeah, he's not miles away. He's just not as close as the front 3 are, but I suppose the front 3 are pretty abnormally close for the moment. There's the gap, 1.7 at the moment. Nieto losing hundreds, really. Less than a tenth a few laps ago. It's minimal each time, to say the least, but it is still a gap that's going out further. Sam Nieto still leading the charge in the 2 car, still running in 6th place. Still got all 22 on the lead lap, by the way. Braden Whittaker is the final runner in the field. He had a minute's pit stop during that first caution. Seemingly got everything he could repaired in that time. Tom Morano also took a slightly longer stop, as did Brandon Gass, as you would expect. Austin Coop did too, for some reason. These guys must have had damage that we didn't quite see. Meanwhile, battle for the lead as Bradley Burke suddenly dives to the inside, trying to defend from both Laraya and Phillip, who are on separate lines in 3 and 4.
Agnell finally gets that high line. Is this going to make it stick a little bit easier? He's still not quite as fast. It seems like Michael is just very good at playing defense, whether it's high or low, because we saw before that 44, when he was on the high side, he just streaked away as they're going to make slight little bit of contact, and that's going to drift Agnell up close to the wall, but he keeps it out of the safer barrier.
And here comes Cody Harris, not particularly wanting to make this 3 wide for the moment, but just waiting and watching to see what happens in this fight for second up ahead. Philip should have the run though off of turn 4, although Lariah does a good job on the inside line. It will be Philip who beats the 44 to the line, and you can just see him using that slightly lower high line, if you can call it that. Goes up a bit higher this time, not wanting to repeat the contact of 1 lap ago.
Doesn't look like he likes how the car rides up on the top side. The 44 had a much easier time being up there. Now he's finally fully through and into second place. Is this battle going to look any different with Burke if he fights? Is round the outside? There you go. Harris now overtaking Lariah as well.
Cody Harris on the outside of Lariah, through on Lariah straight away. What about Philip now into 1 and 2? Well, let's just clear Lariah first. It's not all done just yet. Up on the high side. Should now have the move done, but I think there's still going to be that overlap as they get into 3. Yeah, there is just about. Harris has to go up to the high side again, and not quite having so much joy. I wonder if it's something to do with the tyres going away, that the high line is suddenly not as advantageous, although they are sort of running a middle line really. They're not right up against the wall quite.
Yeah, and that's exactly what Michael was doing, is he was just right up against the safer barrier, and I think that's what was giving him the shot, but this time he gets pinched down and he suffers from it. He's going to fall back into 4th, so not working out. In the meantime, look at the 94 up on the left-hand side of the screen there. He's kind of seeing what he can get set up on the 19.
He is. Over the line, less than 1/10 of a second between the two. 75 laps complete here at Charlotte, and Agnell Philip goes for the lead. Down to the inside, Bradley Burke has let him get the inside line, and straight through. The 94 is going to go to the lead. Bradley Burke will have the run on the backstretch, but surely it's all going to be insignificant. Here comes Cody Harris as well, looking for second place.
And it was Phillip and Harris that were kind of hanging at the back of this front group. So it seems like it pays off to still try and be in that front pack, but maybe just kind of wait patiently for the others to lead the way and then grab it when you feel the time is right. Burke now going to lose second place, Harris up, and the 44 even coming back to the front once again.
Well, let's see. Lariah to the inside line and through. Bradley Burke now tucks in. So after a few laps, in fact quite a lot of laps of leading, Bradley Burke suddenly loses 1 place, loses 3, and decides that running in line is the best order of the day at this stage, although Campassa's not quite done with him just yet. He dives to the inside through 1 and 2 for 4th place. It was a late one. Burke gave him the room, but the middle line there saves him, and he'll stay in 4th place.
Burke is definitely reaping what he sowed at this stage. You were asking, is he using up too much stuff to get to the front? And at the time, the answer was no, but now the answer is yes, because we've gone green for too long for him. We're actually much longer than our first stint, as it only went to about, I think, lap 35 that we stayed green. We're on lap 42 now of this green flag stint.
Yeah, even if you take a couple of laps away for the caution, that's still a longer and more strenuous stint for these tyres. Now, you mentioned earlier on 5 tyre sets. If you divide this race into 5, then you get 40, by the way, for those that, like me, who need a calculator. So working this out into 200 laps is roughly every 40 laps or so. We're getting to that stage again here with lap 80 approaching, excuse me. Maybe it's time for another tyre set soon as well, but I just wonder how long these guys are going to leave it really until they decide that enough is enough on these tyres, as Michael Lariah gets back to second ahead of Cody Harris.
See, the problem with that, though, is that you hit that 4th stop, and then you're stuck with that 1 set to go 40 laps. And if you have another caution, you've got nothing to put on. So I think they're probably going to try and go longer than these 40 laps rather than splitting it up.
It's not quite like short-form stage racing, I suppose, where you need to pit to make it to the end of the stage and be pretty confident there's not going to be a caution. It's a bit different to that. Michael Araya heads to the inside, heads to the lead. Is not quite sure whether he's clear or not. Agno Philip to the outside. We're side by side into 3 and 4. And the 44 and the 94 seemingly both want the lead here on that 81.
Michael, quite a yo-yo here today, because at first he was looking incredibly strong up towards the front, then suddenly gets passed by a few cars. Now he's really got the speed. Again, maybe there was a bit in reserve there, and when he saw these guys starting to make moves, he decided, okay, well, I guess I should probably follow suit and go with them, because they are starting to leave behind both Burke and Patterson.
Look at this. They're not going to leave anybody behind if they keep doing this for a few more laps. There's a whole lap side by side now. Philip on the outside should be clear now, but not really. Now finally, Michael Araya gets his way through, and Cody Harris drops into third place. Now he looks down to the inside. Michael Araya up on the high side should be okay to hang on to second place, and does. But what a great battle between these three as they finally get single file.
And I tell you what, this 44, yeah, look at this. This is where he is super strong, way up against the outside of the wall. That's why you're not seeing others make the passes as effectively. He's using that slingshot around the outside to really carry the speed the way the others cannot in the middle of the track.
And look at Philip taking that line away up on the high side as well. The games being played here between these front three, so interesting, as Laraya has very much found his groove, he's found his line, but Agno Philip wants to take that away from him as quickly as possible.
And he's finally, I think, got this one settled out at this stage. But now he's already focused forward. He wants to try and take this top spot away from Agno, and he's going to get to the bottom.
Here we go. Down the inside, Michael Araya, and can't quite do it. Being pinched by Agno Philip, who will hold the lead, but grazes the wall on the way through. It's getting intense now as we approach the halfway mark in this race. Agno Philip, though, decisively hangs on to the lead, and now Michael Araya is back to worrying about second place.
Yeah, what a back and forth this has been. You always are in a bit of trouble there when you try and make the attack on a car in front as they almost make contact trying to open up turn one there. If you got a car behind, you got to be very smart about your attempted passes because you can open yourself up to attack. As Cody, for the second time now in recent laps that I've seen, him not being able to track out on turn two is hurting him. He is much slower off at turn two if he can't get to the wall.
And if you put yourself in the shoes of those on the high side or in the middle lane as well, that seems to be the way to do it, especially if you're not right up against the wall like Laraya has found some joy getting up right, yeah, see there. If you're on the sort of middle line, it seems to be the way to make a pass or at least hold your place, that your best idea really is to pinch the car on the low side rather than focusing on your own run. Just try and stop the run of the guy on the low side.
Yeah, exactly, and that kind of goes back to what I talked about earlier, is force them into an uncomfortable position. If you let them drive what feels fast and what feels comfortable, then you're basically handing them a much easier time at getting that overtake done. It might be a little bit more tougher for you as well, but honestly, it's better to try and call their bluff, if you will, to force their hand as a smack to the outside wall. Cody Harris not just needs the extra room from the 44, but I think he needs extra room from the track itself.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they would all like a bit of that, to be honest with you. So Agno Philip leads through 88 laps here at Charlotte, ahead of Michael Araya and Cody Harris. As you may have noticed, slightly shorter intro for us here tonight on RaceSpotTV, as we're getting the start of this race to you, but we weren't able to show you before the race started the championship standings heading into round 10. Agno Philip, Bradley Burke and Mutasi Major, the three race winners so far, with the battle for the points going on behind. Austin Coop, currently the last driver inside the top 16. Brett Larson, Braden Wickter, the first chasers. The so noticeable thing about that, Joe, is the amount of race wins that Agno Philip has got. A 66% win rate already in 2024.
Sometimes, I guess, a good defense is a good offense. So if you hog all the wins, then that makes it a lot harder for everybody else to try and shut you out of the postseason. So he is going to be very handy over there. So there is our point situation. I believe we were a little bit late because Josh was distracted playing with his monster trucks.
Yeah, absolutely. He certainly was, but it's fine. It's airport stuff that was going on over the course of the weekend. Worth mentioning, by the way, why we've got a little bit of a moment as well. Running down in 17th place, and Josh told us to do this, by the way, giving a shout out to Steve Sawyer, who is running in 17th at the moment, in the or 16th now indeed. Just got past Dylan in the 75 car. Tour manager for the weekend at the Monster Jam World Finals. Josh said he deserves a big shout out for that, and he's a bit jealous that he got home apparently earlier than Josh did, which is everyone's very aware of when Josh got home indeed. So there you go. But a shout out to him running around in the 75 car, and he's about to make up some places, Joe, because Cody Harris is going to kick us off for green flag stops here for the first time tonight.
And Major just finished his stop. You saw him there in the screen, so he's coming back out. He was the first to blink. Now Cody going to join him. Dylan Coyle also coming in. These are early takers. Now, those who are not familiar, what this does is they'll have fresh tires, which means they should be able to run faster than those that are out there still on those old tires. So they're going to basically leapfrog them in the pit stops, but the trade-off is once they're all done with their pit stops, those that pitted early now have the oldest tires that are going to have the slowest tires.
Absolutely. So how are they sort of going to work through this? Are they going to stay out knowing what you said earlier on about a late caution? Do they want to hold something back just in case that they get there, or will they decide to react to this from Cody Harris, I wonder? So how many stops have we seen so far in the cycle? Just 3, although Grant Davis becomes the 4th. Cody Harris, the only one who was running inside the top 10 to decide to come in. 94 laps about to be complete here. Agnew Phillips stays very low, but just using the right line. I think the notable thing about that was the fact that Harris maybe was just looking for a way to get into the lead. I'm not entirely sure really, but one other thing that's quite notable is the fact that Bradley Burke and Cam Patterson are nowhere near these two anymore. They have gone back into that second group now. It's obvious to me at least who has looked after their tyres the best from that front 4 who were remaining in the on the circuit.
Well, you say the second pack, I mean, it's kind of dissipated. You could say it's down to Ross Cato now in 7th spot before we really see them. And Harris's move is an interesting one to me because, like I said, usually if you're up towards the front, you try to take the conservative strategy call because you don't need to take risks. For whatever reason, Cody's putting himself in the vulnerable position with the yellows to try and get this track position, and I'm not entirely sure why.
Well, here's another thing as well that's a bit different to some of the other circuits on the calendar, as Agnew Phillip now comes into the pit lane. Get it slowed down in time. And the 94, the points leader indeed, makes his way down onto the lane. The notable thing for me is that the drop-off is less than a second. So in reality, Cody Harris is not gaining heaps and heaps of time like you might see at other tracks.
Yeah, it's only going to be, let's see, where is Harris? So 4 laps ago, 4 laps difference on the tires. Yeah, I mean, if it is a second per lap, yeah, that's about 4 seconds, which does sound like a lot, but then he's going to have to try and pay it back a little bit later, and they're going to slowly start to reel him in. Again, it all depends on how long we go green, because we are now since lap 38, I suppose, so we're close to about 60 laps under green.
We're down to 14 on the lead lap now, by the way, as Cody Harris remains the first car 1 lap down, but remains ahead of Agnew Phillip. So there is the change. Michael Laraya, though, seemingly unmoved by this, does not want to be tricked into coming in early himself, decides to stay out that little bit longer and just run his own race, really, rather than worry about those around him.
And I've seen some drivers pull this move and actually come out really shining because, like I said, he's going to have much better tires if he stays out the longest. Yes, he'll have been jumped by a lot of cars, but it'll take a caution after his pit stop and before he catches them all to really kind of ruin things for him. And even then, he may only lose 5 positions, which wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. So yeah, I think the 44 is playing the smart move right here. Try to trap everybody a lap down and then just allow yourself to catch back up once he puts the fresh ones on.
Bradley Burke, the latest to come in on the halfway mark of this race. Thomas George, you can see in the background, joins them. What is not good news for Michael Laraya, by the way, at the moment, is this battle just up ahead between Steve Sawyer, who we were just talking about, and James Ross as well it was in the 14. So I'm not sure because of that or because of his own strategy, but Michael Laraya decides to come in any case. And on the very halfway mark of this 300-mile event, it's time for the race leader, Michael Laraya, to make his way into pit lane.
And yeah, so there you go, bonus points. Oh, and there's the yellow. That is, I'm trying to
19.
figure out who it was.
Yeah, it's the 19. It is... who is that? I'm struggling at the moment.
Well, you might be right, but it's a strange one. Burke almost spun the car coming out of pit lane. He didn't go up into the racing line, but I guess he was far enough sideways that the caution had to be thrown.
You don't normally see that. Now, we've got a real split in the strategy. The top 9 haven't been in yet, and only the top 10 are on the lead lap. Cody Harris is on the lead lap. This is where I missed the old rules, by the way, of the lap cars starting on the inside and all that palaver. But anyway, that's a thing of the past. So this is going to be a bit of a thing to work out. Let's just see what happened first. It was Bradley Burke, as you say, getting on the... it's that bump. Just as he's coming off the exit of pit road, it's the bump. But like you, I'm very surprised that's brought out a caution.
Yeah, that seems a bit strange, and he's going to unfortunately have to claim that too, because I'm pretty sure he's aware that he was the one that caused that. The one I feel for is Laraya, who I think, is he out back on the last lead lap again? Because he went a lap down from what I could see just with the timing of his pit stop.
I think he got the free pass.
Oh, that's what it was, yeah.
Yeah, I think he got the free pass. So he's the lucky one to get back on. But I think we are going to see a wave around for all of the other 10 who are caught a lap down, unless anybody stays out of here. Even Cody Harris is in again after only 10 laps. That is a surprise. He's going to run out of tyres if he's not careful, Cody Harris. But there you go. Michael Laraya stays out. So Laraya's actually going to end up back in the lead again, partially because of the free pass. Cody Harris decides that that's not worth having at the moment and decides to make a 4-tyre change. Out goes Maverick Davis, who wins the race off pit lane, but that will be at second off the restart.
So that was an 11-lap stint for Cody. I thought for sure we'd see him just take 2 tires because because I feel like that would make the most sense in this situation, but he is on the lead lap since he must have retaken that just through his fresh tires before we got that caution. So yeah, I don't know. I if it was me, I would hold on to my stuff. Yeah. But he's going to go for that fresh set.
I would have, because he's only got one set left now, hasn't he? He's made 3 stops.
Yes, if he took tires every time, all 4 tires every time, then he's only got 1 more set to go, which means he's going to have to split it 50-50, which is going to be a long stint both times. I don't agree with this call from Cody.
Yeah, same. I agree. So, now Braden Whittaker's in. What's he doing? Oh no, he's still in. Excuse me. I reckon he's still got some damage left over, actually.
Oh, yeah.
Previous caution, so he's just doing minute pit stops at a time under caution to repair that damage best he can. We've got a couple of cars queuing, by the way, to get the wave around. The top 12 are on the lead lap for definite, but then the cars down to 19th, that's another 8, or another 7 or so, who are queuing to get the wave around. Mike Maddox, Tom Morano and DeAndre Kane look to be staying on the 1 lap down order unfortunately for them, so they will have a pretty long evening, I would say. But we are still going to have 19 on the lead lap. We're just going to have a very different look to the front of the field. Laria's still going to be leading, but Cody Harris is going to be down in 10th. Bradley Burke's going to be down in 14th position, and the series points leader, Agnew Phillips, going to be down in 12th position.
Yeah, still haven't seen Burke try to claim that caution unless he did so verbally. So not sure what's going to be happening there on that one. Regardless, he is definitely compromised now as he's got to climb his way back through for the second time this race, we should say.
Yeah, he's managed it once, I suppose, and he's still got half the race to go, so he won't be feeling overly worried about not being able to overtake or whatever. So, as we come up to the line again here, I would imagine we're going to see a lot of waving around here because we're currently focusing in on the leader. The blue and orange of Michael Laria is the leader, would you believe it? So, and there you go. A lot of the drivers now are going to be waved through, and those that are left on the lead lap will line up double file. But this is surely a golden opportunity now for Michael Laria to really take control of this race. Not that he didn't have control of it before, to be fair. He was racing well, but now he's got most of his rivals from the first half of this race a long way back. He's got a chance here to get a good restart and get out front to a good margin before his rivals can start catching him.
What also is going to be interesting is if they wave off this restart, because remember they had a lot of cars that they had to wave around, and you can see it's not a long lap. They're already on the back stretch. George is just coming into turn 1. He's the last of those group that is trying to catch back up, and if they're not packed up in time, they may give them an extra lap under caution.
I think they're going to sort of slightly hurriedly and quite late on in the day going to get formed up in time, are they? Looks like we are going to go green here. Are we? Trying to see
I think they made it just in time.
Yes, I think we have got it in time. So the lights are off on the top of the pace car, and we're ready to go racing again. 95 to go here at Charlotte in NASCAR's longest night in the RealSimRacing Cup Series. It's time to go racing again for the second restart of the evening. The green flag is back in the air at Charlotte. We're underway again.
All right, got a pretty decent jump, but we've got Davis back on the front row. Remember, he was our pole sitter. So what's he going to look like this time? Because before, he did not seem to have a long-run car.
Look at how punchy he's been as well on these restarts, though. As you say, not necessarily for the long run, but if this comes down to a 5-lap dash at the end, maybe Maverick Davis is going to be one of the favourites. Although running in behind Laria seemed to struggle into 3 and 4. It's just the 44 just took his line away. It's a big long line of cars battling in towards turn number 1 and in the grass. It's not Cody Harris in the grass again, is it? It might well be, not entirely sure, but aggression has certainly been turned up in the second half of this one.
I'm going back to check because I think you actually might be right. Yeah, Cody just kicked up a little bit of grass, and he's on the move here. He's trying to make some positions up. He's also bringing along Brandon Gass, who, remember, had that end-of-line penalty earlier on. So Brandon, I think, looks to have been helped out by this last caution. He's up to 8th position already.
Absolutely great racing inside the top 10. Side by side for 3rd place, I believe. Or trying to. Sam Nieto trying to work his way round the outside of Maverick Davis. He seems to have managed it. Maybe this is the chance for Michael Laria to pull away.
I think Davis does not have a car that's very good. Well, honestly, even on the short run here, because it's only been a couple laps now that we've been under green. As quick as he was on that lone lap in qualifying, he just has not been able to back it up at all in the race.
Oh, look at this. Lots of different lines into 1 and 2. Well, you're right, Maverick Davis very much on the wrong side of this. Cody Harris is going to be enjoying it, though. He's down the inside, though Ross Cato has got a good run in the 12 car. He's got very distinctive livery. The first time we've really spoken about him in and around the top 5. Sort of blocking Agnew Phillip at the moment a little bit as the series leader tries to work his way back to the front.
Yeah, he's back here in 10th position as the number 94s. We're going to go 3 wide, and the 53 looks a little bit shaky. Coop gets out of it. He'll let them go. Probably wise. Almost contact again now for Phillip, just about with Landry there.
Goodness me. Well, they survive another 3-wide moment here at Charlotte. The floodlights are lit and we are racing under the lights now to the flag in the longest race of the season. Cody Harris gets down the inside of Maverick Davis and he's now up to 4th place. He's on a charge here and has been charging the hardest of anyone actually since this restart.
Yeah, I think Cody is definitely one to watch out for because he seems to be able to kind of make his moves at will. We've seen him overtaken a couple of times, but then he fights right back and is aggressive in trying to get back forward, really using up the edge of the track there as he attacks on Patterson.
He enjoys the grass more than the tarmac, to be honest with you. He should try dirt oval or something because he's clearly enjoying it over there. Up the inside of Cam Patterson and he's through now to 3rd place. You can't say it's not effective and he's moved up again. What a great restart for Cody Harris. Once again, though, you go back to the concerns that he's got, or I've got anyway, about his tyre situation. He's not got very many left for the remaining 88 laps as we've got here tonight.
He's just cooling him off in the grass. That's all he's doing. That or his co-driver didn't tell him no cut, and so he figured it's okay.
Well, clearly he thinks it's okay. He's running down the grass all day long so far. Philip down the inside now of Roscardo on the or in the 12 car. Davis right up in front of Philip, though, is not going to excite the series points leader. The man with 6 wins so far in 2024, 2/3 win rate for the season. Sam Nieto side by side with Michael Laraya, a battle for the lead that I wasn't expecting particularly, but Sam Nieto, from leading the second group in that previous run, is now leading the race entirely.
Over Laraya, who's definitely liked to be up in the lead early on, it seems, but kind of falls back a little bit later as we get this nice side-by-side action between Gas and Patterson. And again, I think Brandon must have felt pretty hard done by about that whole incident because he's wasted no time, which is interesting because on that last one, he kind of hung out in the back. I don't think I saw him higher than about 17th position after he got that end-of-line penalty, but suddenly he's just been rejuvenated.
He really has. Great racing again in the RealSimRacing Cup Series as we power towards the end of round 10. 85 to go here at Charlotte. Sam Nieto leading with Michael Laraya second, Cody Harris in 3rd. The battles very much in the midfield. Points leader Agno Philip was working his way forward. Now he's down to 9th though, with a couple of drivers side by side just in behind him. Now though he moves to the inside of Maverick Davis. Points leader looking back, or looking to go back forwards again.
Yeah, he made that pass with ease. Davis going to allow him through. And next up is Landry in front of him in the number 56. See if he can set that one up just as well. He's going to run low, which is how he made that pass before. And no, looks like the high side for the 56 is actually quite good. He gets a huge amount of speed.
Side by side for 4th place down the backstretch. Crown Gas turns in with no fear of anyone to the inside or outside, and so holds on to that 4th position, although he does have Cam Patterson really hounding him for the moment. Ross Cato is right there as well, and there Laraya looks to the inside of 1 as well. No move made, but this is all getting very close indeed. Philip still running in 8th place. They all seem to look to go side by side through the turns, and then by the time they get to the actual straights, they all sort of tuck into line, just very close to one another.
Just a beautiful dance between competitors out there. And now Harris decided to try and get to the bottom side of Laraya. I wonder if that's not the smart move. And there it is right there. Look at Michael all the way up to the outside once again. He knows this trick's work.
It's like his get out of jail free card, isn't it? When he's looking like he's going to get past, he goes to the outside and now he uses it to go on the attack. Michael Laraya to the low side of Sam Nieto for the lead of round 10 in the RealSimRacing Cup Series. He's door to door with the 2 car, trying to hold off Cody Harris in the process. He's still stuck on the inside as he tries to take the lead away.
Nieto had a bit of a moment out of 4 too. It looked like he maybe had to pedal it slightly or it was getting loose as he tried to exit the corner. I don't think he likes riding that middle lane through 3 and 4.
Well, he's going to have to do it again here. Yet though we'll have to squeeze Laraia as much as possible, but doesn't really go for that option, just focusing on his own run. Cody Harris here looking to make it 3 wide, or at least for a way involved here. And this time doesn't use the grass, instead stays in that 3rd position. He's going to have to worry about his own position soon though. Brandon Gass is right there. Now does he have the run? Cody Harris ducks down low and tries to diamond off the corner. He makes it 3 wide into 3 and 4.
Oh, I'm not sure how this one's going to go. The 44 right in the middle right now is the 2, now forced all the way up to the high side. Can he handle this exit? The 44 is the one that blinks first, and he'll fall out of it. Harris is actually going to lead this lap.
Wow, Cody Harris painting the low line there, and he takes the lead. He's getting a lot of joy, in fact, on the very inside line. Sam Nietno's going to lose the race lead, but not to the driver he was expecting. Now he's going to go to the outside. He at least doesn't look into turn 3, as there's so many drivers in contention for this race win. 12 at the moment in the front group. Look at this.
Off the corner, the 2 really needing to use every bit of the track there. I think if the 44 gets to his high side, he's not going to be happy with how the car is handling with a compromised line. He's much better, I think, running on his own. As once again, Michael just shooting around the top side, and Brandon Gass cannot do anything with him yet, running this middle lane.
It's worth saying, what skill from all of these drivers so far to keep it off one another. The only cautions so far have been, well, one of them anyway, caused by a solo spin, another by an incident earlier on, but that's the only one we've seen so far in a race of such close quarters action. It's hats off to all of these drivers who are racing so well, at least through the first 2/3 of this race, getting towards that final third. Now it's normally at this stage we say the action and the intensity is going to be turned up, but I don't really see where we can turn it up from here.
It's been pretty intense, yeah. And with the other thing that's interesting in all this is, one, we've had no DNFs in this race, so they haven't really been big cautions. 2, that lead pack that we're always talking about, it's now 12 cars, not just 3 or 5. It's a huge front group.
It's the biggest one we've seen since the very restarts, but we're not in a restart phase anymore. We're over 20 laps in to a green flag run, and you'd imagine that we're going to go quite a long way into this green flag run as well. If there's no caution, there won't be pit stop for quite some time, I wouldn't have thought, as everybody tries to hold back at least one set of tyres for the end of the race. Up to the high side again here for Brandon Gass, who's got series leader Agno Phillip down his inside, or did previously. Now it's Michael Laraia as Gass turns defence into attack at 3 and 4.
Yep, forcing him down to the bottom. This is the place to be for that 20 car, and it worked perfectly. Round 3 and 4, he's now ahead. He can chop down.
Will he take that low line? Upwards, Phillip gets into the fence. Phillip just misjudges it slightly and grabs the wall. He stays 5th, but he'll be fearful about what that's done to his car.
I think he brushed it lightly enough. He should be okay, but that definitely wakes you up when you get that close to it and you know that you've hit that wall. Looks like Michael's going to try and fight back a little bit, but getting a bit of bump drafting, you can kind of do that here and there. You just got to be very gentle, and that's what Agnell's doing until he lets the 20 know what it's like to hit the wall.
Good grief. That could have been a plane crash into turn 1. All of them so close to one another. Oh, look at that! A dive from the outside to the inside for the series leader. Agno Phillip goes to 3rd into 3 and 4. That was a great move of car precision, placing his car exactly where he wanted it. And now Laraia and Gass are left to fight over the 4th place left in his wake.
Yeah, I thought for sure the 20 was going to have a good pass done, but that little brush and the extra momentum set up such a great pass by the 94. Even still, I think Brandon finds himself on that high side, denying Michael the chance to try and use his natural speed. In fact, the 56 sees that. He's being smart. He's going to continue to pinch him down.
Jason Landry is the driver we've not really talked about so far today, but the 56 is into the top 5 for the first time as Michael Laraia goes from the heights of leading earlier on. Unfortunately, outside of the top 5 just for the moment. They're up on the high side trying to fight with one another as they come off of turn 2 again. It's Philip who's again looking for the moves, this time to the inside of Sam Nieto for second.
Wow, just sliced past him, and that was on corner entry, which was interesting. The car sticks, though. It wasn't like he tried to slide job him and just chucked it in. He just has much better grip running into turn 3, which is surprising because it definitely needs a little bit more of a lift usually than 1 and 2.
Well, Philip so far has really had a good time of things, but that was not a good time, I'm afraid, in the background for somebody. A huge slide and a great save off of turn 2 to keep us green. 69 to go at the line here from the Charlotte Motor Speedway. Very much into the darkness and under the lights at the 300-mile event. And Agno Philip wants to lead some laps of it. Side-to-side contact, door-to-door, as the 94 takes the lead.
Wow. Phillips heading the lead, or heading the group now, so he's got that clear air. Can he run away as quickly as he made those passes? As the 28 definitely got awful close, so I wonder if he doesn't really want to fight him too hard considering how aggressive the 94 was.
And I get the feeling as well, now that Philip has become closer to the front of the group and that Cody Harris has been leading the group for quite some time, we are starting to see the group stretch out a little bit. Eric Papino has lost, unfortunately, the group in 12th position. I get the feeling that a few more off the back at the moment are going to struggle to stay in touch.
Yeah, Papino definitely has lost that group. George is trying to play catch-up, which is impressive because George was, I think, at the tail end of the lead lap on that most recent restart and has been making good. Now up in P13. For the first time in a long time, we've got single-file racing, Ewan.
Does feel bizarre, doesn't it, really? In some way? To have a single file inside the top 10. It's that group of 3 I just referenced there. Bradley Burke, Cam Paxton and Maverick Davis, who are going to send themselves off the back of the group if they're not careful. As Michael Laraya finds himself to the outside, finds himself to 3rd place. He's back up on the very high side and getting some joy all over again.
Yeah, he's giving Cody Harris just a little bit of a bump, but he's going to jump back to the bottom once again. I think he is starting to realize that those runs that he gets are excellent off of that high line. So I think he's using it almost strategically to set himself up for the pass at times here. Watch this. Let's see if this is going to be enough that he can get side by side. Oh, no, he brushed the wall, I think.
And there's the danger. This is the reason why it's not recommended to run up there all the time. Maybe that's why he's not been doing it all the time, because there is that added level of danger. But he does get to the inside now. Cody Harris squeezes him, and so the 28 is going to hang on to second, at least for now.
I went back to watch on my screen, and if Michael didn't touch the wall, he took, maybe the top layer of paint off of that machine. It was that close.
Still side by side, still quite close to getting second place here. Does it allow Agno Philip maybe to get a bit of an advantage over the rest of the field? Down to the inside for Larrea as Harris runs around the outside of 1 and 2. The 2 remain absolutely locked together for at least a lap now.
And I think Michael doesn't want to fight this hard this long, because look at how Philip is starting to pull away. He needs to make this a decisive pass. The more he messes around with Cody, the more they're going to lose that handicap up to the 94.
Well, it's half a second now. Agno Philip leads this race by. Michael Larrea gets to the inside now finally and gets through on Cody Harris. Whoa, moves up to the outside. Doesn't quite scrape the wall, but consolidates second and makes it his. Then it's Sam Nieto, who's seemingly having a couple of internet problems in 4th place. Then Jason Landry, who is 5th, and a bit of a gap. So we're starting to see a bit of a return, actually, to what we had previously in this race, and for a lot of this race, indeed. A small group out front and a mid-pack who are fighting for positions. And finally, after nearly 40 laps of this restart, we've got that pattern re-emerging.
What impresses me is that Agnell has been driving so smart in this race. I mean, we might as well nickname him the Phillips head, because he's not trying to take a hammer to a screw. He's making his passes at just the right time, and while everybody else kind of messes with one another, like I said, he's running away. It's no wonder he's got 6 wins this season, because he just kind of waits for the race to come to him.
Can he increase his win percentage to 70% for 2024? It's worth reinstating what a remarkable start to the season it has been for Agnell Phillip, and he's looking to equal his own 2024 record anyway, of winning 3 in a row, which he managed to do at Bristol, Richmond and Texas. A few different types of racetrack involved in that one as well, which makes it even more impressive. I think Dover, Donington and Charlotte may well be a similar sort of combination, if you want to put it that way, in terms of difference in racetracks. 2 similar ones and then a bit of an odd one in the 3, but he's still got a good 60 laps to go until he can take the race win. But I personally think we're only about 10 laps away maybe from another set of pit stops. If we presume these guys are running with 2 more sets of tyres to the end for the most part, other than Cody Harris, who we both think is on the edge of disaster, that most of them have got 2 sets remaining. If you sort of go with these last 100 laps and go as if you're going to split them in half, then in my mind that always gives you that set to take if there is a late caution.
Now, did we miss Agnell Phillip taking another set of tires somewhere? Because I see his also says 3 times in pit lane here. I wonder if he made a stop down during one of the yellows that we didn't realize.
I only remember 2 pit stops from him, but that's only going off my memory.
Yeah, it could be just a quirk of our timing and scoring, but yeah, I'm showing 3 for him. If he has taken that, then he's in the same seat that Cody Harris is, but he doesn't seem too fussed about it, because boy, is he using them up now. I think if you're smart here, give it a little while before we pit, because we're only on lap 40. I think try and make it at least to a lap 50, just to give yourself a little bit of better tires towards the end.
And I think the thing for Cody Harris, by the way, just to defend him here for a moment as well, is that, remember, he only did 10 laps or so on those tyres. He might have chosen to go in the pit lane at that stage to say, well, I am going to keep these tyres for later on, and maybe put them on again later, even though they're slightly scrubbed, I suppose. But
no, you can't do that. Once you
do that, okay.
No, once you change your tires, you can't use them again. If you've changed them the number of times of sets that you have, that's it. You can't, when you go into the box, that's it.
Well, I was trying to do my best to defend him, but
in the real world, yeah, you could swap them out, but unfortunately not in the sim currently.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. Well, in that case, I really don't know, because it would, if you just stayed out, it would have given him the lead of the race. It would have saved him an extra set of tyres. I really don't understand. But anyway, it might not matter in the end, because there might not be another caution in this race, in which case Cody Harris will be absolutely as fine as the rest of them. 55 to go now. Pit stop for Eric Papineau in the lower part of that leading group. We surely can't be far away from the rest of them pitting in them. But as I say, I would have thought most of them would wait until we're sort of halfway through the second half, if you like, with 1 quarter remaining and 50 laps here tonight.
Yeah, Papineau was pretty far down, so he's got nothing to lose. No wonder he's pitting in. Everybody else, give it a few more laps here to try and stretch it out. Make sure that you've got fresher tires, and also if you are close on those tires and you only got 1 more set, you might want to try your best to wait until we get a yellow towards the end. But once you run out of fuel, well, that's all you can do. You've got to come in and pit.
Absolutely. Side by side there, briefly for 5th place. That was, 4th place. Maverick Davis gets through on Jason Landry. This is a bit encouraging to see for Davis. We talked earlier about his lack of long run speed. Well, he doesn't seem to fire off very well, but he's firing on all cylinders now.
Yeah, good catch. As soon as you mentioned that, I kind of raised an eyebrow, because I thought we would have said goodbye to Maverick Davis by this stage, but I'm glad to be proven wrong. He isn't up to the podium quite yet. Let's see what the most recent laps look like in comparison. Harris crosses the line, and he runs a 30.9. Davis runs a 30.8. So, yeah, he's reeling him in.
Yeah, there's the gap. Wow. Maybe it's the opposite for Davis. Maybe he's not very good on short runs, but he is on long. It didn't seem to be the case throughout the first half of the race, but I don't know. It's worth remembering as well, to be fair, that the track conditions and just the air temperature conditions and all that kind of thing have changed dramatically since we started this race in the sort of sunset time, if you like. It's full darkness now. That's another thing you have to factor in always to these races, or well, this race in particular, I should say.
Yeah, exactly. And like you mentioned, the most laps or the most mileage rather of any race that they do over the course of the season. So going to see supposedly the most dramatic of changes. Doesn't always. In fact, I'm looking now. It's actually gone up 1 degree since earlier. It's 81 Fahrenheit now on the track.
Okay, that's a bit
Go
odd.
figure.
There you go. Neither here nor there really at that cool temperature. Sam Nieto and Jason Landry continue to fight side by side as we head towards 9:30 virtual standard time, by the way. Through goes Sam Nieto, and he'll stay in 5th place. Worth noting that we've got a very different look to the next part of the schedule coming up here, Joe. Sonoma is back after a week off into June, as by the way we've got Cody Harris into the pit lane for what will be the final time today, you would have thought. After that we're going to Iowa, which we haven't seen very often in NASCAR recently, New Hampshire, then back to Nashville, which is maybe a little bit more conventionally like this circuit, if you want to put it like that. There is the schedule in its entirety for you. I mean, it's a bit of a short track and road course time coming up for us in the schedule after here at Charlotte, before we head to some longer circuits before the end of the regular season, if you like. This is the last chance really to use that intermediate setup for a few weeks.
Indeed, yeah. Once they get to Pocono and Indianapolis, then you're getting not only to the longer tracks, but the very unique ovals on the NASCAR circuit. As we watch Phillip now up to, he's up to 1.3 seconds already.
Yeah. Well, going to be less than that now. Indy comes to pit lane, and he skates it on in as well. To the lane.
Oh no, it was too hot. Sorry, it was too hot. He's got a black flag.
Wow. Well, I thought it was quite a fast pit entry, but clearly it was too quick. And Agno Phillip is going to have a very, very long stop to come. By the way, all of those who have pitted so far, we haven't missed anything really. They all took full tyres. They all slowed it down in time. Phillip, the series leader, the first one to miss the timing line.
I thought it looked like he was diving in awful late, so I checked that immediately, and what you know, it's you can't make simple mistakes like that. Whitaker, I think, Whitaker is in now as well. Phillip having to bide his time, unfortunately, waiting for that clock to tick down. If you speed on the way in, you serve that penalty immediately.
Yep, you do. You don't have to come in again like you do in real life, but you do have to stay there for an awfully long time. This is the commitment line. Wasn't sliding too much, he does leave it quite late. I mean, they always do leave it a little bit late, so you can sort of go over the line, at the actual line where it starts slightly over, and then you bring yourself below the average to sort of even it out just in time. But he was very quick. I think he was still in 3rd gear at the line, which is not where you want to be.
No, absolutely not. And that one was painful. 54 seconds stationary. Make it 55, actually, really. So I'm pretty sure with him being 2 laps down, he's going to be a lap down from the leaders. Oh, he's waving the car back and forth. Okay, he spun the tires. I thought we didn't see it on screen, but he almost lost the car on top of things coming off of the exit cone there.
It also seems that we've lost Tom Morano from the race today, by the way. I didn't see why. He just seems to have pulled in and retired from tonight's race, unfortunately. So we're down to 21 tonight. But what a big moment for Agno Phillip. Very, very really see this from him. 6 wins so far in the 9 races of 2024. It would be quite the story of a turnaround if he were to add a 7th to his list here tonight after that speeding penalty.
Yeah, I think he needs multiple cautions, if anything, if he's going to somehow manage that in some weird, tricky way. And what this does do, interestingly, is Maverick Davis has now been promoted up to second. Granted, he has not stopped yet, so we'll see when that car comes in. Lariah, who we see on screen now, also carrying on and is leading the race.
I think Cody Harris could be the leader when this all shakes out, Given the fact he's the first car to have pitted so far, he's one lap down, and the peril that comes with that is not exactly going to go away. But he has been out there for 6 laps now. He's been gaining roughly a second a lap. I think he'll be comfortably ahead of Michael Lariah, actually, by the time the 44 car comes in.
Yeah, and honestly, Michael could probably still go for a few more laps and make Cody all the more nervous by threatening that potential for a caution, trapping him a lap down. That said, Cody would be the lucky dog in that situation, so he would get it back, but then he would have to pass some cars to try and catch back up to the 44.
Well, you say that. I would envisage the fact that Harris would go round with the free pass. The 6 ahead of him would come in. Cody Harris can't come in, or there's no point in doing so. So he would surely be leading. Now, that would give him older tyres and everybody stacked right up behind him after a caution, yes, but he would get the track position at the very least. I just don't see, if there's a caution, a way which Cody Harris can win this race, to be honest.
Yeah, good catch on that. Yeah, I still think he would be in a bad position. It'd be difficult to try and come away with the victory, but he would still probably have a decent finishing spot unless the caution leaves us with a ton of laps to go.
Well, yeah. Even if there's not that many to go, there'd be 17 on the lead lap, I'd a guess. And that is a lot of potential positions to lose. Meanwhile, Sam Nieto and Bradley Burke come into pit lane. I think that is Cody Harris in the background, just ahead of, quite a long way ahead of Brandon Gass, who is with Austin Coop and Eric Papineau, who are all trying to work their way forwards as well in the race. So 2 out of the remaining 6 make their way in, still waiting for the leading 4 to make what could be their final pit stop of the day.
One of the things we often get when we have these varying strategies is that cars are able to do things others are not. We just had contact between Harris and Davis. I don't know if Maverick didn't know he was going to try and stick his nose in, but as Cody tried to overtake him, he nearly hooked that car.
Let's have a look. Whoa! Now, that seems to me as if Harris almost underestimated the amount of grip he would have going into 3 there compared to Maverick Davis, who is clinging on with old tyres now.
And just as we come back to full screen here, Cody is on the lead lap now. He just overtook Lariah, so no threat from having to get that wave around.
So the lucky pass, lucky pass? That's not a thing. The free pass would be this battle. Austin Coop through on Brandon Gass. I really think these guys will be 2nd and 3rd in a few moments' time. But I think the guys out front are somewhat banking on a caution. They can't do 100 laps on field, can they? Can they?
I didn't think so, but I mean...
The thought has just occurred to me that they might just not stop.
I don't think he can quite go that long. And now Maverick, I think, just announced he's pitting in. So he's going to head down. Although he's also coming in awful late here. Does he make it in time? Yes, he hits the commitment cones without speeding.
A breath of sigh of relief, if that's the thing, for him. Leaving us with just 3 out front. Michael Lariah, Ross Cato and Thomas George. The top 3. There goes Davis, looking for 4 tyres for the remaining 35 laps. And here comes Michael Lariah with just 34 to go when he gets out onto the circuit again. The race leader, long-time race leader Michael Lariah, makes his way in, leading Ross Cato and Thomas George to stay out there. Cato stays out. He will lead his first laps of the night. But it won't be very long until Cody Harris takes over that race lead. What is the gap going to be, though, to the long-time race leader, Michael Lariah? I think that could be the big story for the final laps of this race.
And it was 14 laps difference between their pit stops. That's a pretty dramatic difference out there. And I think, Cody's already ahead of him before Michael even exits his pit stall. So it's going to be a lot to make up if you are Lariah.
It's going to be a huge amount of time to get make up. Normalizes out at about 11-12 seconds even. Cam Patterson goes through on Michael Lariah. So these guys who have gone long are hoping for a caution, and maybe that's what they were banking on by staying out so long. But at the moment, it's not happening. And for the moment, Cody Harris is praying that there is no caution as well. Just in behind Ross Cato here, Maverick Davis leads a group battling for 9th place. Sam Nieto and Bradley Burke trying to take that one off of him, and look at him just pulling out wide. 3 more cars get onto the lead lap.
George just pitted, and that leaves only Cato at this stage. The last car that needs to take a stop, and then Cody will in fact inherit the lead.
15 seconds away from doing so anyway. Kind of want Ross Cato to just stay out and see what happens really here. Would be quite entertaining. I kind of want to see whether he would get chased down in this situation or whether he's got enough speed to hang on here. He's in the mid-31s now, which is really slow compared to those around him. He's losing 1.5 seconds a lap. I would argue there's more than enough laps for Cody Harris to close in that situation if he's indeed losing 1.5 seconds per lap.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you, both out of curiosity and because honestly, I think it probably is the best thing that Ross can do at this stage, because if he pits now, he knows that he's going to lose a ton of time, and he wasn't up towards the front. So you've got to take the sort of, I guess you'd call it the contra strategy here, and just try and run it dry until there is nothing left in the tank, just to see if we get that yellow out.
Tell you who else is getting run down slightly at the moment, by the way. Cody Harris. Only just over 3 seconds now as Ross Cato does come into the pit lane. We're not going to see the interest of somebody trying to go to the end from an impossible distance. Instead, we're going to see a more conventional race, it looks like, with Cody Harris leading with 29 laps remaining. So Ross Cato's led his laps. It's time for Cody Harris to lead some more. Will he lead the final 30 right the way to the checkered flag at Charlotte?
Now, did Michael lose as much time as I'm seeing? I'm checking his pit stop. It was slightly long, 22.3. So something has gone awry for the 44. Because I was trying to see.
He's been in again.
Did he speed on the way out?
He's been in. I don't know. He's been in again for something. He's now behind Agno Phillip.
2 laps have been deleted. He got a black flag somewhere, so either an unsafe exit for crossing the line before the blue cone, or he sped on pit exit. I'm not sure which, but whatever the case, a second fast driver that made a critical error.
There are the 2 of them, in fact, battling 1 lap apart on the circuit. So it looks like we're going to get a 4th different race winner here of the season. Montasi Major is 11th place. Obviously, Agno Phillip down in 18th, as we've already spoken about. And Bradley Burke down in 8th place. Currently more than 10 seconds away from the current race lead. I reckon the time is just about right for us to get a 4th different race winner of the season. We're seeing quite an interesting race, I've got to say, but the gap coming down, 3.1 seconds now, 26 to go in the race.
Coop's going to need some impressive times, though, to catch up to him. And let's see, last lap, 30.297, 30.485. Okay, so that was a decent gap. The question is, will they level out as it gets towards the end of the stint? Because theoretically, the curve kind of gets closer and closer between the lap times of the cars, even though there is an advantage at the start of the stint.
So, change for 13th place as Steve Sawyer gets past Dylan Coyle. That's the battle, well, still going on, in fact, still side by side, just behind James Ross for 12th place. Maverick.
Oh, hello.
Dylan making an appearance.
I turned your volume way too down. So I can hear sometimes. Not all.
So you've heard all the lovely things we've said about your mother this whole time.
I can hear your voice. Because Ewing's is more sultry. Joe, yours is sharp and piercing.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. There is still again on the stream for the second time tonight. But he can't hear us, so that's fine. We're just making noise, effectively, in the ears. You'd think he's done this before.
I don't know how he can listen to us talk and race at the same time. If I have anybody distracting me, I am just a mess in the car.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Coop's down under 3 seconds, by the way.
It is. I'm not convinced there's not enough laps left in this race, I've got to be honest. I think there's still enough life left in this, although it is... Coop does need to sort of get on with it. It would be a great story for Austin Coop, by the way, to take the race win here today. I know it's quite early on in the season, we're halfway through the regular season, but right on the playoff bubble for the 16th place. But if you can get a race win, you can rocket yourself right up towards where it matters. And no better way to do that than here at Charlotte, but he's still got a long chase ahead of him with 22 laps to go.
You asked earlier on in the broadcast, is it worth someone trying to do something risky or unconventional just to try and get that win? And, well, I mean, Coop's a candidate for that on the bubble, like you said, needing something to make life a lot easier, to free him up for the rest of the season and not have to points race. So I wouldn't say this is a crazy strategy for him, but it's definitely looking like a pretty good strategy. It may come up a bit short because Cody's been so fast.
Absolutely, Cody has been fast indeed. He's come close this season, has Cody Harris. Close at Bristol on a short track, close at Talladega in the middle of April on a super speedway. He's running himself very, very close on an intermediate circuit now as well. Just needs a road course to complete the set, if you like. 2 weeks time will be at Sonoma, live on RaceSpotTV. But for the moment, his eyes will and his mind will totally be focused on this historic racetrack. 2.8 seconds. The gap is slowly coming down, but I think it is coming down too slowly as far as Austin Coop's concerned.
Yeah, and like I said, it'll start to kind of converge in terms of lap times, most likely, especially by the end of this stint. 19 to go now. So even if he's making 0.2 of a second now, there's no guarantee 15 laps from now he'll still be making up those 0.2 per lap. So that's the one crumb of comfort that Cody has in this situation. In fact, I think Austin may have lost a little bit that last corner because it went from 2.6 up to 2.8 just now.
Lost 48 thousandths to be specific on that last lap. Whereas, by the way, Jason Landry is quicker than both of them. Maverick Davis way quicker than all of them. So's Bradley Burke. They're 7 seconds away. And that's probably too many at this stage. And when the others look back at this race, I do wonder what they're going to feel in terms of, I'm not saying Cody Harris has got this race won, but even the lessons that they can take away from this race with the situation they've got at the moment, never mind what's about to happen in the next 17 laps when we get to the line here. I think the lesson that everybody's got to learn here is watch out for the undercut, because Cody Harris was one of the first to come in. He's not feeling the effects of tyres going off towards the end nearly as much as the others were feeling the effects of getting undercut during the pit stop phase.
The thing that I'm learning is I'm still not a race strategist, because I was critical of Cody for taking that extra set of tires, and yet here he is with a very handy lead and looking hard to chase down. Now, knocking on wood, I mean, he's still vulnerable to that caution because he's got nothing left in his pocket here. But once it gets down to, I'd say, 10 laps to go, I don't know that we'll see many drivers willing to risk taking a pit stop.
I'm still going to defend ourselves, by the way, and say that stop didn't actually matter too much to the outcome of this race.
True.
I don't know whether that's true or not, but that's my argument. I do personally believe it, to be honest. But it's difficult to know, isn't it, really, what would have happened had this not happened or whatever. Motorsport and sport, indeed, is full of what-ifs. And I think a few of the drivers finishing behind Cody Harris today are going to have some of those. Maverick Davis is very much on the charge right now and is moving up to 4th place I said that he was too far back earlier on, and I still do believe that, but he is starting to move forward. Brandon Gass, the latest victim. Maybe a top 3 is on the cards for the 15 today.
Yeah, I think Davis is likely to get a podium here because he's charging hard. One of the last pitters to try and take fresh tires, and it's working out pretty decently well, to be honest. It's just, like you said, too little too late, unfortunately. That last lap at a 30.3, Cody Harris 30.7, even at 0.4 of a second per lap, he's got to catch him by 5 seconds.
That is, 3 tenths a lap, more than? Going to need a
somewhere around there, yeah.
Going to need a miracle, really. He did gain 4 tenths that last lap, I suppose. So it's the problem then is going to be that he's going to catch on the last lap, and that's not much use.
And pass other cars in the process. So yeah, I think the cards are a little stacked against him. Cody may have gotten close to the wall on the exit at 2. I'm going to go check to see if he actually touched it.
Everyone's been getting as close as they dare so far today, but some have maybe gone a bit too far over that line.
I think he just brushed it, honestly. I definitely didn't do anything to the car, but we see this earlier where he got awful close or actually hit that wall on the exit of 2 late in a stint when the car maybe just didn't have the grip yet that we saw some manage to have. So 12 laps to go, going to be 11 this time by. Let's keep an eye on this and see if the handling starts to go away more and more.
Yeah, let's see. But it is looking decent for Cody Harris now. 4.4 seconds the gap to Maverick Davis, who honestly is probably the biggest threat at this stage. But with 11 to go, he is not gaining what he needs to. Only 3 tenths gained on that time round. He needs something more like 5 tenths now if he wants a real go at this at the back end of the race. What a remarkable drive, though, from Cody Harris. Are we going to put this more down to his strategy, that he's the only driver, or the only driver that we know of anyway, at the front of the field on the lead lap who have used all 5 sets of tyres, or are we going to put it down to his speed and driving?
Bit of column A, bit of column B, I think, honestly. He's had the speed. His strategy did work out in the end. And then, I mean, a bit of luck, because we kept saying if he had a caution, we would probably have a completely different story. We would feel vindicated saying his strategy was a bad idea. He won't have any tires left. But that didn't happen. So sometimes you roll the dice in racing, and if it goes your way, it goes your way.
And by the way, go back to lap 100, he got the free pass for being first car 1 lap down. He just snuck onto the lead lap as well without having to take a wave around. That gave him a little bit more track position than he otherwise might have had. It gave him the option to take that tyre change, which we didn't believe in at the time. He totally has believed in it. And in the end, it looks like he's going to be the only driver to take all 5 sets of his tyres throughout the day. Meanwhile, battle for 11th place, by the way, between Grant Davis and Matasi Major, one of the 3 drivers only to have won a race so far this season. They continue on as Maverick Davis gets up into 2nd place with 8 to go.
8 laps to go, but 3.8 seconds to try and catch, 3.5 really, to catch Cody Harris. So, yeah, if he had pitted, I think maybe 2 or 3 laps earlier, we might be in a slightly different position, because he was probably losing a lot of time to Cody Harris each and every lap. So we ride on board with Maverick. But it's like you just said, there's so many what ifs. You just don't know. It's too much to track in racing to know exactly what is the best strategy.
I think this gap's going to be below a second by the line, by the way, by the end of the race. But not the line this time round, obviously. By the end of the race. Because Davis is closing in at quite a rate. I agree. I don't think it's quite enough. Needs half a second, really. Jason Landry's on the move, by the way, as well here. Austin Coop was looking maybe at race win earlier on, but that's not going to happen anymore. It's a good points haul, though, for a driver who really does need them to get into the top 16.
Absolutely. And it looks like he's going to try and fight for those extra little bit of points as he runs around the outside past Landry, keeping that speed up, making him work for it. It's the end of the race. It's worth taking a couple of those risks now to try and get what you can.
Yeah, speaking of risks, that certainly was one of them, side by side off of 4. This could be Austin Coop's best result since Daytona, by the way, and depending on how many positions he can hang on to here with them all queuing up behind him, it might even be his best result of the season so far. Side by side through 1 and 2 again. Landry gets his nose ahead briefly, but Coop is holding up well to the challenge on the outside.
Doing exactly what we saw the 44 do earlier on, just kind of slingshotting off the banking every time, making life annoying for that car at the bottom, forcing them to really carry the speed hard through the corner.
Round the outside for Austin Coop. Can he manage it and get clear for the first time in a while? Well, Brandon Gass is closing in very quickly as a result, and Sam Nieto might well be there soon as well, although he's probably struggling on older tyres at this stage too. Into 3 and 4 for the pair of them. Coop's just continually getting that run on the outside and coming back, but it's getting physical now. He had his nose chopped off there by Jason Landry, and now he's going back to the inside.
And here's the thing. If we get a caution, we got 3 green-white checkers.
I didn't want to even flirt with that possibility.
Well, we might be the way they're racing.
Yeah. They are dicing with disaster at the moment, these two, in a fight for the final podium place. Jason Landry at the moment, the one who's got it. As in the bottom of your screen, Cody Harris goes on to the penultimate lap. He will be praying that this 1.5 miles gets over so that he can see the white flag.
As soon as that white flag comes out, that's it. We got no green-white checkers to worry about. 1.5 seconds down to Maverick. Yeah, I'd say he's in a good spot.
He certainly is. I'm still backing my prediction it's going to be below a second, but that's besides the point. White flag in the air at Charlotte. 1.5 miles for Cody Harris, who's pulled off one of the drives of 2024 so far.
Yeah, and this is going to lock him into the postseason on top of things, so he is going to be super hyped about how this one worked out. I really want to know how nervous he was about the potential for that yellow.
Well, he should be even nervous about the gap now. Not over till it's over, but through 3 and 4 for the final time. Cody Harris wins in Charlotte to finally get his first of 2024, our 4th different winner in the Full Throttle RealSimRacing Cup Series for 2024. Cody Harris is a race winner for the first time in this year, and he holds on in the end by just 1.2 seconds.
Look at that smile. Yeah, he is so happy about this result. And that gap, you were very close. It was 1.2 seconds at the end.
The Ohio fanatical, clearly very pleased indeed with his afternoon's work. Winner at Charlotte, Cody Harris, with what we would describe as an unconventional strategy. He would describe it as a great one, and he's well welcome to now.
Any strategy that gets you to victory lane is a good one, I suppose. And Cody Harris going to burn it down here to celebrate. That is a well-earned win.
I do seriously wonder, though, whether the fact he was the only one to use all 5 sets maximised his race somehow. But there's probably, as you said earlier on, probably a lot of factors involved in that race win today. Not least the speed of Cody Harris. We can talk till the cows come home about strategy. Doesn't matter which strategy you're on if you haven't got the pace. Cody Harris certainly had that tonight. He celebrates on the front stretch at Charlotte. A famous win in the RealSimRacing Cup Series. He wins by 1.2 seconds, with Maverick Davis getting himself together by the end to have a great run. Jason Landry fought off Austin Coop for the final podium place in the end, with Brandon Gass, Sam Nieto and Bradley Burkle coming quickly to the end as well. Ross Cado leaving it so late at the end probably stifled his efforts, but he still finished 8th, ahead of Cam Patterson and Eric Papigno, the final drivers in the top 10. 11th was Thomas George, and then a row of Chevrolets. Montasi Major, who has one race win this season. Grant Davis and Steve Sawyer. The final driver on the lead lap was James Ross. Dylan Coyle got lapped in 16th. It was Agnell Phillip with that speeding penalty down in 17th. And Braden Whitaker fighting on with lots of damage throughout that race as a result of the first caution of the race. Mike Maddox finished 2 laps down, along with Michael Laraya, who got a penalty after that final pit stop as well. And then outside of the top 20, it was DeAndre Kane, who did get to the line 3 laps down, and Todd Morano, who did not. He only completed about 130 laps of that race. Well, what an exciting race. An engaging last final 100 laps, you've got to say. It was a couple of cautions in the first half of that one, but a much cleaner and a much greener second half to that one, and a classic strategical race here at Charlotte. Thoroughly enjoyed that one, and it was not quite sewn up right until the end. Only 1.2 seconds on the line.
Yeah, it certainly kept us on our toes, and honestly, I'm a bit surprised that we basically had no cautions from, I think it was about lap 35 or so, all the way to the finish of that race. And that might also be something that caught out some of the other people's strategies, but Cody called it right.
He certainly did. Let's bring him in and have a chat with Cody Harris, who is now welcome to join us. Welcome in, Cody. Good to have you with us. Congratulations on the win as well. Just 1.2 seconds at the end. Was there ever a point in those final 30 laps or so where you were nervous about losing the lead?
No, I felt like I had it pretty well under control. I was just kind of managing my tires in case there was a late restart, or I had one more set of tires in the box, but just wanted to make sure I had something in the bank if someone got to me.
Oh, I was going to ask you about that, because we saw you come in enough times in that race to have used all the sets of tyres. What was going on in terms of tyre strategy today? Because I've got to admit, me and Joe may have criticised you at some point for coming under a caution when I didn't think you were going to. What was the tyre strategy like? How did you work your way through the cautions in the first half?
Originally, my plan was a 2-stop. There was just enough fuel to do a 2-stop race. And then we had that one caution. And then that next run, I think I was the first car on pit road, and I was trying to split that strategy, just do 3 runs of the same length. And then next thing, the caution comes out, but I was on the lead lap, but I already had, 13 or 14 laps on my tires. So I came back down to get more tires. And that's when I drove up through the field there and got to the lead. But then I burnt my right front off, and Agnell got around. And I can't remember. I think there was another caution. And then, I just kind of split the strategy, came a little bit early just to try and get clean air, because it's much easier to save your tires in the clean air than it is being stuck behind cars.
Well, what does this mean now for the rest of the season, now that you finally got that win chalked off?
Like to get more wins, but it's nice. I've had a bit of a rough season here. Just keep finding trouble and about everything I do on iRacing, it seems like. But it was nice to get that turned around, and hopefully we can keep this going. Look forward to the road courses. We'll see if Matt Danson's there, and Agnell was really good there last year, so it should be a fun battle.
Certainly will. We'll look forward to seeing you there in a couple of weeks' time when we go to Sonoma, of course. But for now, congratulations on the win at Charlotte, and thanks for coming to chat to us as well.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Thanks very much. Cody Harris, the winner tonight at Charlotte in the 300-mile 10th round of the RealSimRacing Cup Series tonight. Second position was Maverick Davis in the field. He was chasing down Cody Harris, 1.2 seconds at the line. He can hopefully join us now as well. And standing by with him is Joe.
Indeed, Maverick. Before we get to the finish of the race, I want to talk about earlier on, you put it on pole, and then every single time we got a stint going, it seemed like you started to drop backwards. Was the car not set up as well for the long run for you, or what was going on?
No, I was just really heavily saving tires. I was practicing before the actual practice for this opened up, and the way this setup is, it's really tight, so it was better for me to start really slow and have a really steady pace, and help me out long run for sure.
Well, and you definitely tried to take a bit of a short run for that last stint to catch Cody. Looking back at it, do you feel like if you had pitted 5 or 10 laps earlier that you would have caught him, or do you think it worked out as best as it could?
I think if I pit 3 laps earlier, I would have had him.
Wow. So sometimes it's those marginal calls, I guess, that kind of make or break. Ultimately, are you satisfied with a second place, especially considering you started it on the top spot?
Oh yeah. The fact I even podiumed, I mean, I'm just astounded I am even here right now. So yeah, I'm beyond stoked to be here right now.
Well, you definitely caught us by surprise at the end. We thought you didn't have speed all race the way you kept dropping back. So congratulations on top 3.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you.
That was Maverick Davis finishing P2. And Ewan, a driver we didn't see as much of was third place finisher Jason Landry.
Yeah, absolutely. We can bring him in now for a chat as well. Welcome in, Jason. Good to have you with us. Third place for you tonight. And I want to start with those final lap battles. You and Austin both desperately wanted that third position and you were fighting hard for it. Tell us about that battle at the end.
Oh, man, he really pushed me hard on that one. I was just trying to hold on. I saw Maverick Davis before we were catching him. And I was like, hopefully, I'm just going to let Maverick Davis go. Try to get onto his draft and he can pull me along. And then Austin just fought me so hard. It was really, really fun.
Tell us a little bit about the earlier part of the race for you, because you went very much under our radar, I've got to say. Obviously, a bit of focus on the front of the field here for the broadcast, and there were plenty of battles going on there, but you sort of slipped, I should say, under the radar and suddenly found yourself in that final stint in a real position to get a top 5 and a top 3 eventually, which is what you got. What was the sort of mentality for you going through the opening part of the race, and what really went on in those first 100 laps for you?
For the first little bit, I think I qualified up in the 10th or 12th, and I was happy to stick around the 8, 9, 10 mark. It was really difficult because a lot of guys were saving tires and going pretty slow on the inside line. So at one point I decided, I think around lap 20, I was going to go around a few people. And then I made the mistake of going to the inside of somebody. So I think I was in like 7th or 6th. And then I just dropped back to like 15th because I took the wrong line. So then I was just trying to slowly make my way up into the top 10. I got lucky with that caution that put a bunch of people a lap down and they got their lap back. I think that was around the 100, around somewhere around there. So yeah, I just wanted to save tires and see how everybody was racing, just slowly make my way to the front if I could. And then once I saw, I think it was Agnell got a speeding penalty into the pit lane, I was like, oh, I think I might actually have a chance at something decent here.
Absolutely. Got more than that. Got a third place. A very good result indeed. Congratulations on that, and thanks for coming to chat to us as well.
Thank you. I'm happy the chat's working this time.
Yeah, thanks very much. Jason Landry, third place here tonight at Charlotte here in the RSR Cup Series. Well, it's a big thank you to everybody who's been tuned in over the course of the evening. It's been a thoroughly enjoyable time here at Charlotte, I think it's fair to say here, Joe. 300 miles is a big undertaking when you get to it at the start of the day, but it's flown by any means, and I've thoroughly enjoyed it. We're going to have a week off coming up next time round, of course, but the week after that, it's Sonoma, and it's the first road course we've had all season long in the Cup Series. So looking forward to seeing how that's really going to pan out, to be honest, because it's such a different challenge to anything that has come in the previous 10 rounds before it.
Yeah, drivers will have to try and work their muscles turning right a little bit here and make sure that they've got all those corners memorized. But based on what we saw tonight, I mean, what a testament to this series that they had 2 cautions in 300 miles. I'm pretty sure we're going to be in for a show out in California.
Absolutely. Just 55 laps around there to enjoy, but we'll be live with every single one of them here on RaceSpotTV. I hope myself and Joe have taken good care of the airwaves for you over the course of 200 laps tonight. No racing next week, as we mentioned, but in 2 weeks' time, we'll be back at Sonoma, so make sure you join us then. The 2024 Full Throttle RealSimRacing Cup Series is well and truly into its swing for another year. A third of the way through the overall season now, just 10 races to go until the end of the regular season. And continuing on with Sonoma next week, the race for the playoffs will continue here on RaceSpotTV. Make sure you join us again in 2 weeks' time when we'll be back next. For now, though, I've been Ian O'Leary. Joe Peak has been alongside me with Joshua Lee behind the cameras. And until we see you for road course action for the first time in 2024 in just a fortnight's time, it's goodbye for now.